We are just one day away from a Nashville Predators season that kicks off with high expectations. On today's show, we're going to share our bold predictions for standout player performances, how we see the team finishing in the Central Division, and we're going to talk about what could derail a roster with so much potential.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Predators regular season eve episode, welcoming any first-time listeners, and of course, with a shout out to our everydayers and to our Locked On Predators insiders. We appreciate your support. We love that we get to spend a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, you know I have a partner in crime.
Yeah, you do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Nashville Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, if you have been listening to the show this offseason, you know that Emma and I have been talking ad nauseum about the potential of this new-looking Predators team. But today, we are going to say the quiet parts out loud. Emma and I are going to heighten our anxiety and make some bold season predictions for the Nashville Predators. Before we dive into all of that, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, Emma, we have said this before. We will say it again. We do not like to be wrong, which fortunately is not a feeling we are super familiar with here. But we're going to put it all out on the line today. We're going to make some bold predictions. We've talked about this roster. We've been watching this team in training camp, in practices, in preseason, and with just, one day to go until the puck drops for real, you and I are going to say some things out loud. And look, here's what I'm going to say. We can always delete this episode later if we get it so wrong, right?
Never happened. Never happened. What episode? I don't know.
Yep, nope. There will be no receipts, y'all. There will be no receipts. But I feel like we're going to do okay on this. I think there are some things that are fairly obvious about the Predators this season. Number one, I think we're looking at a better team than we had last year, and I think we have clearer expectations. But let's kick it off with something very specific, Emma, and I'm putting you on the hot seat first. I want to ask you for kind of who is your standout player for next season for the Nashville Predators. And it doesn't necessarily have to be most points or anything like that, but who is kind of going to be the player you're going to be watching next season?
I mean, there's quite a few to choose from, I think, honestly, but I'm going to have to go with Jonathan Marchessault.
Come on.
I think a lot of the talk has been about Stamkos, understandably so. And I'm not saying that Stamkos is going to be a flop or anything, but I think that Jonathan Marchessault, I was maybe less familiar with some of the finer points of his game, and we've gotten to see a little bit more of that during the preseason and during camp and whatnot. And I think that he will be a very impactful player on offense, both at 5-on-5 and on special teams on the power play.
I love this pick, and you were not alone. We sent out the call to our Locked On Predators insiders about bold takes. Who are your player predictions? Where do you see the Preds? And had some great conversation with them. Chris actually came back with the same thought you have. As Chris says, as for the Preds standout player, I call Marchessault. He is still boiling inside over Vegas's offer of deferred money. Stamkos is hurt. Marchessault is pissed off. And my friends, I think that may make all the difference this season, because I think even in the preseason, you can see Jonathan Marchessault is a little bit pissed.
Yeah. And
he's
he's
offended.
He's a player who, even if any of this contract stuff with Vegas had not happened, Jonathan Marchessault is a player who is known for having a little spice in his game.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of plays with a fire under his butt already. And then you add in this extra stuff. You talk about, well, you hear players speak all the time like, well, would love to stay, but it's a business. Like, yeah, it's a business, but it's personal. Like, you can't act like it's not. And so he's feeling that in a big way this year. And I
Yeah.
think that will be to the Predators' benefit.
Yes. And I would agree that probably Stamkos is walking through it a very similar situation, but a different emotion. Jonathan Marchessault right now, friends, pissed off is a scary, scary thing. And I'm here to watch that. So I like Marchessault. I'm actually going to pick an under the radar player. Now, this is not somebody that I think is going to be your points leader or anything, but I want to give a shout out to Gus Nyquist because I think he is going to have a repeat performance and very few people think he can do it. Last season, 81 games played, 23 goals, 75 points. Now, 24 points came on the power play. And we've seen in practice and training camp, Gus Nyquist is no longer on the top unit. However, I will say this. I think the power play is going to get better for Nashville with Stamkos and Marchessault, but I think it's going to take time because so much about Steven Stamkos on the power play is about timing and chemistry, and it's just going to take time. Meanwhile, I think you're going to see Gus Nyquist on the second unit with Evangelista and Tomasino, Tommy Novak. Brady Shea has been quarterbacking that, which I think is very interesting. So I do think you can see some points early on the power play with Gus Nyquist in that second unit. The other thing I will say across the board with the top line is that they are no longer the only scary scoring threat for the Nashville Predators team. Your top six should be terrifying to other teams. And with that, I think Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly and Nyquist could each have massive seasons. I also don't think that top line looks like it's missed a beat. And I think, man, Gus Nyquist, I know he's 35 years old, which in hockey years is supposedly old. He has not slowed down. He has not missed a beat. He looks fantastic in the preseason. And I'm just going to throw it out here. He's in the last year of his contract. And I suspect, this is pure speculation. This is not reporting. This is pure speculation, but I suspect that if the Predators make a decent postseason run, I can see Nyquist saying, I'm going to stick around for another year or two because I think maybe we can get it done. So I just think Gus Nyquist is going to surprise everybody and have the season that people were taken aback by last year. I don't think he's going to have a big drop off. So I'm going with the Swede.
I like that. You know what? I think that that's kind of been a commonly held belief by a lot of people that, well, last year was an anomaly for Gus Nyquist. Like, let's not get our hopes up, people. And like, while I agree, I don't think that we should bank on him having another year like that. I also don't think it's unlikely that he does.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look at Filip Forsberg last year, of course, set the franchise record 48 goals. Do you think that he is going to repeat that number? Do you think it's going to drop off a little bit? Do you think that he can do even better?
That's my hot take for the year. Filip Forsberg is going to get to 50 goals.
Let's go. Yeah. And here's what I will add to your hot take. I think a lot of them are going to come on the power play because I think people are going to be so concerned about Steven Stamkos that they're going to forget how scary Filip Forsberg can be with a one-timer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that it can honestly work in their benefit because Filip Forsberg is one of those guys that is kind of always around the league flown under the radar a bit just because Nashville hasn't really been a threat in the postseason. And so he's not I feel like people kind of forget how good he is. And so I think that, that can only help.
Yeah. It's a little bit of the bait and switch on the power play. You all just wait. We'll see.
Yeah.
Some of our insiders had some other picks that I think are worth mentioning. Matt says, I'm seeing Colton Sissons with a big season ahead. And last season, Colton Sissons had a career high in points. He tied his career high in goals. What do you think about that take, Emma? You know, we're big Colton Sissons, Mr. Potato Head fans here.
See, I love Colton Sissons, and I think that personally, selfishly, I guess, I would like to see him set a new career high for goals because he tied it last year. It's like, come on, you needed one more.
Just one.
And they didn't play him in game 82. It was just like a maintenance day because they were already in the playoffs. But I can't help but think, I was like, what if he had played in that last game? Would he have scored a goal? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So
I want that for him.
I do too. And I think this could happen. I think he also is in a great position where if perhaps something doesn't work out on that second line, Colton Sissons can jump up in that situation for the Predators as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Sissons. I love that Andrew Brunette referred to him last season as a security blanket, and we see him playing a lot in practice with Evangelista and Tomasino. I cannot wait to see if that continues and what his little security could do for them. The other Matt, another one of our insiders, said standout player will be Novak. He'll have 25 goals and 65 points. We've talked about this. We talked about it, I think, on yesterday's show. Andrew Brunette really loved the way Novak started camp, has kind of seen maybe him pause a little bit in that. Tommy Novak, is he going to be able to kind of hold down that second line center role with those other two, I can't remember their name players, Stamkos and Marchessault.
The new guys.
The new guys.
Yeah.
It's up to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he does. I don't know. Like for me, I think we are going to see an increased point total from Novak. I do think a lot of it is going to come in the form of assists.
Agreed.
That's kind of what his role is going to be. But yeah, I really do think that he can settle into that role. And I hope he is given a long enough leash to show that he can play that role, and that they don't yank him. And I'm not saying I expect this to happen, but you don't want to give him the hook after a couple games that don't go well. I think that, I really want to see him succeed in that role because I really do believe he can do it.
I'm with you. I absolutely think he can, and I hope that they are patient and give him the chance to kind of make the adjustment to playing with them. Another player, just real quick, want to shout out Phil Tomasino. Got a couple of votes from some of our insiders saying, you know what, he could even end the year with more points than Evangelista. He has had a really good training camp. Really good preseason. So we're going to have to watch and see what Tomasino does there. Coming up, we're going to tell you where we see the Predators finishing in the regular season and what it is going to take to earn a playoff spot in a very tough Central Division. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. If you are looking forward to seeing this Predators team play this season, or you want to make some great fall memories with a live event, you have got to check out the deals at GameTime. GameTime is the fastest and easiest way to get tickets for your favorite sports, music, theater, and comedy. GameTime now has this new feature. It's called GameTime Picks, and it makes getting tickets for your favorite events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Right now, GameTime has great sports deals on tickets for Nashville SC, the Tennessee Titans, and of course, the Nashville Predators. GameTime also has a low price guarantee and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. So, Emma, tomorrow night, finally, the Predators are kicking off the regular season at home against the Dallas Stars. On tomorrow's show, we will have a game preview to get you ready for all of that action. Let's talk about the Central Division. Since we're starting the season with the Dallas Stars, Emma, let's just dive in and let's make some bold predictions. Where do you see this Nashville Predators team finishing in the Central Division?
I'm going to go third behind Colorado and Dallas, but I am jury's still out on the order in which Dallas and Colorado finish ahead of them. I'm not decided on that, but I do think the Predators finish third. Also, maybe semi-hot take, I think Utah finishes fourth.
I am here for the Utah. Take. I really think Utah is going to surprise some people. You are not alone. Chris is one of our insiders, and he said he sees the Preds finishing third and neck with Utah because, they've made some great additions. You've got Connor Ingram, you've got Cooley, who's going to take some steps forward. They've got a young forward group. So you are not alone. I think Utah is going to be a team to watch this season. I think it may be one of the most interesting teams in the entire league to watch. I think the vibes are good. I think the vibes are going to be good in Utah. I'm surprised, Emma, how many people I have seen that say Nashville's going to be second in the Central behind Dallas. That to me is a bold take. Have you all not met Colorado? May I introduce you to a guy named Nathan MacKinnon?
Yeah, I think Nathan MacKinnon alone could finish second in the Central.
Yes.
What are we talking about here? Yes, I know Nashville got Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, but Nathan MacKinnon.
Right. Colorado may not have gone out and gotten anybody, but that's because most of them are already there. You know what I mean? They really didn't have to go shopping. Their closet is full. I am amazed at the number of people I have seen online that are saying Nashville's going to finish ahead of Colorado. Do I love the way that would feel? Yes, I do. Do I think that's realistic? I do not. I just think so many things would have to go wrong for Colorado. And let's face it, last season, they had so many injuries and they were still a really good team. I don't see how Nashville finishes above third. I just don't.
Yeah. And that's honestly says less about Nashville and more about just the strength and the depth of this division. And it's called the hardest division in the league for a reason. We don't just say that. It's true. Right. And I think that a lot of times the argument, because I've seen that as well, the argument that Nashville will finish second, I feel like a lot of times the knock against Colorado in that argument is their goaltending situation. And while, yes, if we're just talking about goaltenders, yes, Nashville is above Colorado, 100%.
Right.
But it's a whole team thing. And if you have Nathan MacKinnon scoring all your goals, then
and Cale Makar on defense.
Yeah, you have enough run support there. So clearly their goaltending situation hasn't stopped them before. So I don't see why it will this year.
Yeah. We do have one of our insiders with the hot take that Nashville could finish first in the Central. I think so much would have to go wrong in Dallas for that to happen. Because Dallas, I just feel like Dallas is such a complete team. And I know you said, Colorado, Dallas, you're not sure where they're going to finish. I just think Dallas is feeling it. I think that they felt like last year was their year and they're going to come back. They've got great veterans. They've got really good young players peaking at the right time. Yes, they made some changes on defense, but I think so much would have to go wrong in Dallas for Nashville to be number one in the Central Division. And again, the same with Colorado. So yeah, but I love the Utah take. I think Utah, keep your eye on that team because I think something really good could happen there, even though they do have Bortuzzo and he is in my backpack of hockey grudges. He hit Victor Arvidsson. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Do you remember that? What he did to Victor Arvidsson? I do. Mm-hmm. I do. He's in my backpack. Let's talk about how the postseason is going to go. I would say with the roster Nashville is starting with, the base expectation for this season to feel like a success for Nashville is that they are going to have to make it past the first round. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
That's the bare minimum. Now, are they going to get past the second round? Here's what I will say. Several of our insiders say probably not going to get past the second, but going to be very competitive in the second round. A couple are here for the Western Conference Finals. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If we're talking about like how do we measure success for this team this year, like gotta win a playoff series, gotta make it past the first round. So I think to me, that should be the expectation. I mean, of course, the expectation should be Stanley Cup, but I don't think any of us are sitting here thinking that that's reasonable right now, which is okay. That's fine. But I think that with all of the like, yes, we got all these shiny new toys, but they need to learn how to play together first. And I think that that is going to be an adjustment period. And I don't think this team, certainly don't think this team has taken a step back from last year. So if last year, the end result was make the playoffs and lose in the first round, then reasonably the expectation this year with a on paper better roster should be make the playoffs and win in the first round, get out of the first round, play the second round. And then, the thing with playoffs and making predictions at this point in the year, it's so tough because a lot of it can depend on so many things. It can depend on injuries and what happens at the trade deadline, and it can depend on matchups and standings and things like that. So, and I think the manner in which they do eventually get out of the playoffs, it matters as well as the round when it happens. So whether it's the second round or the Western Conference Final, like, do they get swept in 4 games or do they make it interesting, 7 games, overtime, whatever. I think that it's not totally black and white.
Yes, I agree with that. I would agree with that. How you leave in the playoffs will matter. I would say I would feel more confident talking about the Western Conference Finals if it were season 2 with Stamkos and Marchessault on the roster, because then you have chemistry and then you have familiarity with the system and with teammates. So for me, I'm not there this season, but I do think that is something that is definitely on the horizon for the Nashville Predators in the next couple of years. Coming up, we're going to tell you who we think could potentially vie for a postseason award. We're also going to tell you what could derail all of this goodwill we're talking about. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. This is the most wonderful time of the year for sports fans. Major League Baseball playoffs, they're in full swing. The NFL is underway and the NHL is kicking off. The best place to celebrate all of that is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL fans, you can kick off your season with a big return at FanDuel. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's a guaranteed $200 of bonus bets with your first $5 bet. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. So check out the sports details and all the great deals at FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Emma, there's a lot of goodwill the day before the actual regular season kicks off, but let's just poop on our own party here for a minute.
Now we're talking. Bring on the pessimism. Let's go.
Emma's like, and I'm in my element. What could derail this for the Nashville Predators? Expectations are high. What could derail this season?
Well, injuries.
100%. Yeah.
Knock on everything, but injuries. I also just think this may be too broad or too general because there are a lot of ways that this could happen, but I think that just the lack of chemistry with these new guys, again, I'm not saying I'm anticipating this, and we don't have a reason to anticipate this at this time, but I think that not having chemistry or the chemistry maybe not materializing the way that it was expected to could, really could change things, because people have, a lot of the arguments about, I'll use Steven Stamkos as an example. It's been like, well, he has played his entire career with the same organization. He played with Hedman and Kucherov and Point and all those guys, and he won't be the same player without those guys. And it's like, you know what? Maybe he won't. Like, maybe he won't. I'm not saying I agree or I think that that's going to happen, but it's possible. So,
Yeah.
I think it's going to depend. But I also, again, do think there's going to be an adjustment period for all parties involved here.
I absolutely agree. And that is, again, why I hate that we have to play Dallas right out of the gate. Like, could we not book Dallas in like December? Although that didn't go great for us last season.
You're going to get him 3 more times regardless. So
just get it out of the way, I guess. But you talk about Steven Stamkos. And for me, of course, injuries, number one reason this could all go to pot. But Steven Stamkos, for me, it is not a question of talent. Yes, people are saying, but he's not with Kucherov. And look, Kucherov could make me look amazing in the NHL. I get that. But Steven Stamkos does not lack talent as an individual.
would be leading the league in power play points with
Let's go.
with Nikita Kucherov.
I would probably lead the league in like penalty minutes if I actually played. But when I look at Steven Stamkos, for me, the concern is not the talent that he possesses and brings to the Predators. It is not the talent that will surround him. It is, can he find his joy? Can he find his joy? This whole situation with Stamkos was a dump truck full of crap. I mean, it was atrocious. It was just terrible to watch. It was terrible for Tampa Bay to watch. It is a business. Understand all of that, but it was a hot mess. And I'm like, we need Steven Stamkos to find his joy, to feel like I want him to not feel like I am no longer a Tampa Bay Lightning. I want Steven Stamkos to feel like I am a Nashville Predator. And I think he's been through it. Like, I can't blame the guy. He has been through it. He is trying to find the ketchup at Whole Foods. He is trying to deal with his feelings for what happened in Tampa Bay. And oh, by the way, the expectations in Nashville are through the roof. So for me, I just want Steven Stamkos to find his joy in Nashville. That's a worry.
I think that the way that Andrew Brunette put it, not when he was talking about Stamkos, I think he was talking about Cody Glass last year. Talked about it, said he needs to find his why. And I think that this is obviously Cody Glass, Steven Stamkos they're both at very different points in their respective careers, but it is a kind of a new beginning for Steven Stamkos. And so, I mean, not kind of, it is. And so I think that we're, again, it doesn't all have to be black and white. We don't need to be expecting or bracing for this massive decline in production from Steven Stamkos.
True.
But is there going to be a little bit of a drop off? Reasonably? Yeah, probably. And that, that's to be expected. Like I think everyone's expecting like he's either going to be amazing or he's going to be absolutely terrible. And it's like, have we not considered the option that he is still very, very good and maybe not, he's not going to have a career year, but a average year for Steven Stamkos is still pretty good.
It makes the Predators better.
Yes, I was going to say better than any alternative they had last year. So, I mean, I don't think anyone's here saying like, you know what, forget Stamkos, bring back Anthony Beauvillier. He's the guy. Like, what? Like, everyone who's talking about Stamkos like, oh, he's going to regress. And it's like, a little bit, probably. Yeah. I mean, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I could sleep
Honestly.
fine at night with a little regression from Steven Stamkos. I do think you're right. People see this next season as an all or nothing for him, and I think there's a little part of me that's afraid. And I want him to have joy, and I know how much he meant to Tampa Bay, and part of it is just I don't know, part of it is just the empath, I think, in me, where I'm like, I want you to know that you're wanted.
You want to bake him cookies and invite him to your house for Thanksgiving?
Yes. Would you like to come for American Thanksgiving? Although, is he American?
No, he's Canadian.
Okay,
so.
great. There we go. American Thanksgiving, my house, Steven Stamkos. You are welcome here in Nashville. Real quick, Emma, do you see any Nashville Predators winning or seriously vying for a postseason award? And if so, who?
I think it's the obvious Roman Josi and Juuse Saros.
Yeah.
I think I would guess like my quote unquote hot take, even though it shouldn't be that hot, but I guess based on last season being technically his worst or statistically his worst, I think Juuse Saros is a Vezina finalist this year. I don't know if he wins it. Especially with, Igor Shesterkin just being Igor Shesterkin and potentially going into a contract year if they don't get that all settled in New York.
No, thank you. I will not take $88 million. Igor Shesterkin.
I'm like, hello.
Okay.
I feel like he needs to talk to life coach Kevin Lankinen and be like, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
But yes, I think that he's going to have some competition. I don't know if he wins it, but I do think that that's my bold prediction for this year, which isn't even that bold, but bold prediction. Juuse Saros is a Vezina finalist.
Yeah. I like Roman Josi for the Norris because I don't necessarily see any major quote unquote shiny new toy. The only one I would maybe say could be is Evan Bouchard. I think he may be a defenseman that makes the league go, ooh. But I would love to see Josi again be a finalist for that. I also really want Barry Trotz to win GM of the year.
Yeah. I think how this year goes is going to be huge in that, just with, he made a very bold statement with his moves over the offseason. And
He
so
did
you
the
kind
things.
he did the things. He did the things that everyone, was afraid to do. And I think that you gotta hope it works out for him.
Yeah.
I could see Brunette as a finalist for Jack Adams. I don't know that he wins it. I'm looking at Craig Berube in Toronto. I think that coaching change is going to be really impactful, like the right guy for the right team. So I'm keeping an eye on that one, but also Rick Tocchet. Like we love Rick Tocchet
Oh
as
my
much
gosh,
as
I
we
know.
don't love the Vancouver Canucks. We love Rick Tocchet. So
I feel like Bruno's year to win it was last year because he just sort of had this team and he made something really amazing happen. And I feel like that was his year. And yet I cannot bring myself to be miffed that Tocchet won it because he did the same thing, and you can't argue it. I would love to argue it, but you just really can't argue that. And I'm afraid this year, because the roster was so improved, people are going to overlook Bruno, but you can say what you want about Andrew Brunette. He's a hell of a coach. He's been a hell of a coach so far. So we'll keep our eye on that. Those are some of our bold predictions. We're putting them out there. We may retract them later. There will not be receipts, but this is how we see some things happening this season. Again, regular season kicking off tomorrow. The Nashville Predators host the Dallas Stars. We're going to have that game preview on tomorrow's episode as well. Before we sign off here, Emma, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow with that game preview to kick off the regular season. We'll see you then.